plus non-verbal paper. Today we'll be doing a practice paper for non-verbal. We have done a lot of practice papers on our channel. If you're new, you can go back and have a look and try doing them. And today we'll be doing a non-verbal practice paper for you all. So let's get started. It's a really easy paper and I'll be going through with you all the answers for this paper. So let's start doing it now. If you look at the first section tells you you need to work out the codes for the shapes. This is a really easy one. So let's start doing it. If you look at the first shape, the shape is a circle or something. You can't see it really clearly. It has a circle on it and it has something like dots for you guys to do it. So find what the shape is. If you look at the first letter, basically the first letter represents by a B. So we know that the first letter of the shape will be a B. So all of them have a B, so we'll cancel option E. And the next one tells you the second letter relates to the number of shapes there are, so it will be F. If you look at that number of, the second letter relates to the number of shapes they are, so it will be a F. Two shapes and one shape. One shape is a F. So we know it's a F. So others, try doing that. We know it's any one of them. And the third letter, what does the third letter represents? The third letter stands for fill of the shapes or the shapes. So that is a P. So I know the shape is BF PZ, and Z represents the fourth letter actual shape drawn, so it will be a F. So that's why your answer is BF PZ is your answer. So let's look at the second shape now. In second shape, what do you think it is? I'll give you a second to try doing it yourself and then I'll go with the answer. Look at the shape, look at the inside shape, look at the outside shape, look at the shaded one and go for the answer. If you look at that, the first letter on the outline, whether it is thick or thin, that is a G. So we know that the first one is a G. We look at G here. It's same like this. So we know that is G. So cancel the options which don't have a G. So that one I can cancel. And the second letter represents the shape in the center, 3 sides of 4. So this letter would be a B. So B is basically tells you how many sides there are. The second letter represents the shape in the center, 3 sides of 4. 1, 2, 3 or 4. That's the B. So the ones which don't have a B, cancel that. So your two options are gone. Now what does the third letter represents? This letter, the third letter shows what the fill color of the center shape is. So the letter is a Y. So basically a Y is the one which tells you the color of the center shape is a Y. We look at Y. Y is the shaded one. The black shaded one is a Y. So the ones which don't have a Y, cancel them. So I know that my shape is this one. And there's an error in this shape. This one should be a N. And N is the fourth letter. So the letter would be the fourth letter stands for the fill color of the outer shape. So the letter would be a N. N is the shaded one. So that's the N. So we have done 2 of them. So let's go on the third one. I will remove all this for you guys. So you can see the third one. Who likes hearts will love this shape. So if you look at this one, it tells you that what does the first letter represents and what does the second one. If you look at this one, I will go with the first one. The first letter shows whose direction the outer heart is pointing at. This is not the letter, not already seen. in the simple shape is not pointing in the same direction as any of the others. Therefore, it is a W. So basically, we need to think what it is. None of the shapes have like this. So we know that will be something new. That would be a W. So the one which doesn't have a W, cancel that one first. And the second letter they are saying represents the direction of the inner shape, heart shape. So it has to be a R. So I'll cancel this one. So if we look at R, R tells you about the inner shape basically. The third letter refers to the fill color of the shape, so it has to be a T. If you look at T, T is the one which has an inner shape like this. So it's a T. So cancel the ones which don't have a T. And what is O now? Because I know this is my shape, but we should also know what O is. Whether it's a circle or a square, so it is a O. So my third shape is a O. It's a O. So remember in the second one, there was an arrow in this one. This was an N. So we did first three. So let's go on the fourth one now. Now in this, you need to look at, they are saying basically the first letter represents the number of gray colors inside the shape. So it has to be a P. So all of them have a P. The one which don't have a P, cancel that one first. And then they're saying the second letter stands for how the shape has been divided up into halves or quarters. So it has to be a M. So one which don't have a M, cancel that one. And now we are left with these two. So what does the third one represents? The third letter shows what the main outer shape is. It is an X. So it has an X. So this one is also gone. So we just need to find out what G is now. The fourth letter is how many block circles are there inside. So it is a G. And so your answer is PMXG. That's your answer for the fourth one. For the fourth one, let's move on now. The fifth one now. In the fifth one, again, we need to find what each alphabet represents. If you look at the first letter, it's all about arrows in this one. The first shape is an arrow, so it has to be a T. If you look at the arrows, the way they are pointing, T arrow is the one which like this, so is a T. So cancel the one which don't have a T, so the first one is gone. And then we need to look at the second one. The second letter refers to the fill of the next shape, so it has to be a. First one is the first letter represents the outer shape. Oh, sorry. The second represents the direction of the arrow. The simple shape point in a direction that is different to the all others. It has to be different letter, and it has to be a D. If you look at D here, we don't have a D, and we don't have the direction like this, so that has to be a D. So cancel the one which don't have a D. So we are left with these two. So we need to work out it's U or V. And if you look at the third one, what does it do? The third letter is for the extra shape on the on the other end of the arrow. If you look at the arrow, the other shape, so it has to be a V. So cancel this one. So I need to work out what R is. The fourth letter shows what color the extra shape is on the end is. So it has to be a R. So that's why it's the R. So we know is this one. Sometimes you have to make sure what the letter represents because they are really, they make you a little confusing. For that, you guys get confused, but don't get confused and try using it. So let's do number 6 now. I'll do it little more zoom. I think so it's better now. In number 6, the first letter represents the fill of the outer shape, so it has to be a E. If you look at the outer shape, it has to be a E. So I'll cancel the one which doesn't have a E. So let's look at the second shape, second letter now. The second letter refers to the fill to the next of the shape, so it has to be a T. So it is ET is your second one. And what was T? T refers to the fill to the shape, so it has to be a T. And the third letter shows what shape is inside the circle. If you look at inside the circle, what shape is inside the circle, that's the one. What shape is inside the circle has to be different letters to those already seen in the sample shape is different to the others. So it has to be a U. So there's nothing here. So no, we know that it has to be a U. So we'll cancel all these. Now we need to find out what O is now. The fourth letter represents the fill color or the center triangle. So it has to be a O. So the answer is D. Again, we had a shape like this in which you don't have the codes, what the code represents. So you have to give guesswork in this one. And you also have to do some guesswork in your nonverbal. So let's go on the seventh one. The first letter refers to the angle of the line of the shape. So it has to be a X. You know it has to be a X. So cancel all the W's and go on to the next one. The second letter represents the number of colors filled in gray. So this will be have to be a letter not seen in the sample shape. We don't have it in the shape anymore. It's 3 shaded and none of the other shapes do. So it has to be a U. And the third letter shows the outer shape. So it has to be a M. So we know it has to be a M. So cancel the one with the N. And the fourth letter stands for what the shape inside is actually R. So it has to be a O. So we got our answer is XUMO.
Call from Roger Uncle.
So we got the answer for this one. Let's do for number 8 now. In number 8, you need to look at the shape again and see what each represents. It has 3 hearts and the first letter represents the angle of line of the first letter represent what shape is on the top of the overlap, which is it's a shape on the bottom or the top, and it has to be a A. So we know it has to be a A. So cancel C. And the next one, what they are saying is that the second letter refers to what shapes are drawn. This will have to be the letter not yet seen, as the simple shapes are different to the others. So the letter has to be a P. So we know it's a P. So cancel the Q. And then the third letter shows what direction the shapes go in, either up or left or the right. The letter has to be a T. So we cancel all this. And now I need to work out what W is. The fourth letter stands for the fill color. So it has to be W. So the answer is APTW. That's your answer for this one. So I'll go on number 9. For you guys to see it. There are 10 in each section. If you're asking how many is in this section, so let's move on to number 9. In number 9, look at the shape and try doing it. The first letter represents a number of quarters shaded in gray. If you look at gray, how much you have shaded in gray. So it has to be a B. So cancel A. The second letter refers to how many quarters are just left white. This has to be different letters. So the simple shape has no white quarters. Again, we don't have this in the shape. So it has to be a Y. So cancel the one which don't have a Y. It has to be in between these two now. And the third letter stands for the main shape. This has to be a P. So we know it's not this, it's this one. And now again, we need to work out what U is. The fourth letter shows how many quarters are dotted, so it has to be U. So the answer is A. So let me move up a little bit for you guys so that you can see. The last one in this section. So we'll move on to the next section. We know the answer for this one was A. So let's do this one. I'll give you a second to try doing this one your own and do it. The first letter refers to the direction to the inner shape which is pointing. So it's different from those already seen in the simple shape. So it's different direction. So it has to be a Q. So cancel the P. The second letter represents the direction of the outer shape. So it has to be a W. So cancel the one which don't have W. So we need to work out what the other two shapes are, letters are. The third letter shows the fill color of the outer shape. So it has to be a N. Oh, sorry, then cancel the one with the M. So we're left with these two now. And the fourth letter stands to the filler inner shape, so it has to be a U. So we are done with this one, this section. So let's move on to the next one. In this section, there are 5 squares on the left contains arranged in order to form a sequence. One of them here is missing. So you need to find out which is missing. So let's start doing the first one. This is an easy one. They are moving this direction, that direction. It has 1, 2, 3. And again, something is missing here and it's facing the other direction. So if you look at the whole pattern, it's a reflected in the vertical lines. The rectangle alternates, which is overlapping the other, and the circle is added or removed. If you look at the circle is added or removed. So the pattern is, if you look at this, the pattern is going as 1, 2, 3, and it's 1 here, and we don't know what's here. So we need to find what here is. So obviously, if the pattern is going on, it's 1, 2, 3, it has to be a 2 here, and then it'll be 3. If you go this way or that way, it should be the same. So it has to be E. So let's move on to the second one. The second one is really easy if you look at that one. In second one, if you look at the small circle on its own rotates. If you look at the small circle on its own, it rotates how much? 90 degrees anti-clockwise each time. And the larger circle position is reflected in the vertical line and the black and white fails swap places. So they swap places. If you look at that, they swap places. So obviously the answer for this one will be C. So let's move on to the third one. See what's happening in the third one now. Both shapes in the circle and the pentagon change size in the pattern. Small, medium. If you look at that, it becomes small, medium, large, small, medium, large, and it keeps happening that. And when you look at that, the line covers one less shape each time, and the fill flips between the pentagon and the circles. So what do you think the answer is now? Obviously the answer would be E for this one. Because you look at the shapes, they have small, medium, large, small, medium, large, and this is the way how you find this one. So let's move on to number 4 now. This is basically in this one, I'm explaining you how to do it, and you can also do it yourself because some of you are new for 11 plus and they don't know how to do non-verbal. So let's move on to number 4 now. If you look at number 4, what's happening? going anti-clockwise, 3 lines become dotted each time. If you look at the 3 lines, it becomes dotted each time. And the next box lines that were dotted then becomes that they get removed. They get removed here. If you look at that, the center shape alternates between a circle and a square, and the arrow rotates 90 degrees. The arrow is rotating 90 degrees in all the shapes. And this one side is removed and 2 sides removed. What's happening here? The sides are getting removed. So obviously the answer would be a E. So I hope you got this one. Move on to number 5. The whole pattern is reflected in a vertical line each time. If you look at that, pattern reflected in the vertical line each time, and the gray fill moves up and down one position, and the answer is definitely going to be E. I'm just marking the ones you can see. So let's move on to the next page now. Yes, you can see it properly now. So what's happening in this one? Number 6 now. In number 6, the angle of the edges, if you look at that, obviously they're rotating. And how much are they rotating? The circle and the edges are rotating 90 degrees clockwise, and 1 is added each time. If you look at, 1 is added each time. The circle on the edge rotates 90 degrees clockwise, and 1 is added each time. The center shape rotates 90 degrees anti-clockwise. The gray and black fill swip ends. The gray and black swip ends, and the semicircle rotates another 180 degrees each time. So obviously the answer would be a B for this one. So let's look at number 7. The same thing is happening in number 7. The pattern rotates 90 clockwise. The black fills in the circle, swift sides, and the line is added at alternate ends. So obviously the answer would be A. They are rotating. If you look at them, the way they are rotating. So let's go on number 8 now. What's happening in number 8? An extra sixth is filled in a clockwise direction. The fill color switches black to gray. If you look at this, black, gray, black, gray, black, gray, black. So we know this one should be a gray. So we need a gray. So cancel the one which is not a gray first. And then what are they saying in this one? They're saying an extra 6 is filled with clockwise direction to fill black and gray, and a line is removed from the square around the hexagon. So the answer is definitely is D. So let's move on to the next one. We got 2 left here. So I'll do the one you guys did. So you know the answer is D for that one. So move on to number 9. In number 9, what's happening? If you look at that carefully, what's happening? Look at the circles. Look at this. So I know one thing for sure. What shape I'm looking is a white one. So cancel the black one first and then find out what's happening to the circles. 2, 4, 1. How many sides I think so are there? The circles are there. Let's see. An extra circle is added round the star in the anti-clockwise direction, and the black and white fill swip places. They swip places. We have seen that between the star and the circle. So the answer is B for this one. And in this, look at the arrows now. They are rotating. The whole pattern rotates 180 degrees each time. A skinny arrow is added or removed in the patterns 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you look at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So again a pattern is going on, and the black fills also switch between the skinny and the shaky arrows. So the answer is B for this one. So let's move on to the next one. This is matrix. You need to just find out which shape or pattern completes the large square. So which one is completing the large square? If you look at that, they are again rotating. Solved horizontally, the pattern rotates 90 degrees clockwise, except the inner shape, which rotates 45 degrees clockwise. So the gray fills then switches places with the white. The answer is E. That was an easy one. So look at this one, what's happening in this one. Remember, in these ones, you have all rotations or patterns. So you need to be careful what you're using. So it's solved horizontally. The pattern is reflected, the reflections in the vertical lines and the arrows reverse directions. If you look at the top small shape is then removed and the lower small shape moves into the center to overlap the middle line. So we know that the answer is E. So look at the third one now and see what's happening in the third one. In the third one, they are saying basically it's solved horizontally or vertically. The whole pattern, if you look at the whole pattern here, it's rotating clockwise from left to right, and the dot changes. And what's happening to the dot? The dot changes color. So each row and column has one of each. So they have one of each. If you look at that, they have one of each, gray, white, or black. The number of lines and triangles also changes. So each row and column will have 1, 3, 2, 1. Let's go 1, 2, 3 triangles and the line. So the answer would be a B. So let's move on to number 4 now. So let's see what's happening in number 4. Number 4, the whole petal, if you look at that, they look like the reflection of each other. The whole pattern is reflected in the vertical line and two small shapes, and they swip positions and sizes. The gray, if you look at the gray filled swip between the center small shape and the outside the shape. The line also changes between the thick and thin. If you look at that, it changes thick to thin. So the answer would definitely will be a D. If you look at number 5, number 5 is a, what's happening in number 5? The black and white filled swip shapes. The outer and the center shapes with sizes and the position, and the top left small shapes move to the center to the middle shape. So obviously the answer would be a C. So try doing number 6 now. Number 6, the same thing would be happening in number 6. The trips are, if you look at them, they are rotating 90 degrees and they swip places from the center shape and the outside shape. Each row and column needs one gray fill in the center shape and one gray fill outside the shape. So if you look at the pattern, what's happening in each of the shapes? And if you look at that, this one, it's all dark, or the inner one is not so dark. So basically what they are saying is they are telling you they rotate 90 degrees, they swip places from the center shape and outside the shape. Each row and column needs one gray. You need one gray fill in the center shape, and one gray outside the shape. So obviously the answer would be a C. So let's move on to number 7. What's happening here? The shapes in the corners swip places and the shape in the diagonals opposite corner. So the black fills in the white fill swip in the center shape rotates, and they're rotating how much? Always remember when they're saying rotating, it's rotating 180 degrees or 90 degrees. But in this one, they're rotating 180 degrees. So that's why your answer would be a E. So let's move on to number 8. In number 8, what's happening again? Remember, I told you that in these shapes, you have lot of rotations and lot of pattern goes on. So in number 8, the shape rotates 90 degrees clockwise, but the strip remains the same. They do not rotate with the shape. They are not rotating with the shape. So the outer swip dots for solid and the gray fill also swip places. The swipping, look at this one and look at this one becomes dotted. So the answer is a C. So let's move on to number 9 now. I'll remove this for you guys. Number 9 and 10. In number 9, again the same thing will be happening what we just saw. The shape is rotating 90 degrees from left to right and also changes size. So each row and the column has a small, medium and a large shape in. The large shape will have a shaded outline. The medium one have a solid line and the small one have a dotted line. So the center shape changes. So each row and column has one of each color, diamond and stars. So obviously the answer would be A, because we know that we need a shape like this one and we need the shape going this way and it has to be dotted one. So look at number 10 now. Number 10 is an easy one. The center shape is rotating again how much? 180 degrees. And the outer shape swips between a circle and the square. Circle, square, circle, square. So we know we need a circle. So the answer is a D. So let's move on to the next section now, section 4. Basically, they're telling you which shape or pattern in the right completes the second pair in the same way as the first one. So what's happening in this one? If you look at this one, what's happening in this one? If you look at this one, the outer shape is reflected in the horizontal line and it has outline changed to dot. It's changing to dot. So the center shape changes from black to white and moves out to the outer shape to be positioned between it. So obviously the answer would be a E for this one. Let's look at number 2 now. In number 2, they are saying the bottom shape is flipped vertically to the sail is flipped horizontally. The gray and white, if you look at the gray and white, they're changing. This becomes white, this becomes gray. So this is the pattern what's going on. So what do you think the answer would be for this one? It's definitely E. Good. So let's go number 3. In this, what's happening in this one? In number 3, the pattern is rotating 90 degrees anti-clockwise and the outer shape shrinks. Look at this one, it shrinks. Big, shrink, big. So looking at the shrink one. The gray and white replaces. So your answer is a E. So let's move on to the next one now. Number 4 and number 5. In number 4, if you look at that, what's happening? Each shape has 1, 2, 3, 4. This 2 becomes, and these 2 becomes. This is also changing. The whole pattern is reflected in the horizontal line in vertically flipped, the gray and white flip places. So obviously the answer for this one would be a E, because there's, look at this one, what's happening here. So in number 5 now, in this I can see that they are rotating. The whole pattern rotates 90 degrees anti-clockwise, and the gray and white sweep colors, this becomes white, this becomes gray, it goes inside color. So the answer is a C. So I hope you understood. I'll wait for a second, then I'll move on to the next one. Number 6 now. Number 6 now. All the individual triangles are unfolded and the pattern is rotated 180 degrees. So the outer shape, it shrinks, it moves to the center and is divided into quarters in the same way as the original shape was. So obviously the answer would be a B. So let's look for number 7 now. What's happening in number 7? The center shape, it's rotating again. How much? 180 degrees. So the lines is reflected in the vertical line and sweeps. If you look at this one, thin, thick, and becomes 2. The small outer shape gets large and moves to the new larger shape created by the crossing of the lines and the main shape. So the answer is a E for this one. So let's move on to number 8. In number 8, you look at the F's. What's happening to the F's? The whole pattern is reflected in a vertical line. It's a reflection of the vertical line. The 2 small shapes sweep places. They're sweeping places. Look at that. And colors. And the strip rotates 90 degrees. It's also rotating 90 degrees. So the answer for this one would be a D. So let's move all this and go to number 9. So what's happening in number 9? Again, try doing it yourself. In number 9, the main shape, and if you look at the main shape and the small shape, the main shape and the small outer shape both rotates 180 degrees, but the smaller, if you look at the smaller shape, swept sides, it swept sides in it. The small shape in the center does not rotate but simply sweeps to the outer large of the large shapes. So the strip rotates 90 degrees. So obviously your answer would be a A in this one. So number 10 now. Look at number 10, what's happening. In number 10, there are 2 shapes, sweep position and sizes. This becomes big. But then sizes, the shape which started in the center is also reflected in the vertical line. It's reflected in the vertical line. So obviously if you look at, your answer would be a B. So let's move on to section 5 now. Is the odd one out now? So look at the pattern and see which one is odd one out. Only one which has more black dots than the white one. If you look at the dots of the, it's B. That's so easy, this one. Number 2 now. So what's happening in number 2? The only one with the straight line dividing the ellipse in the half exactly is a D. All of them are like this, see? It's going this way, or this way. So only D is the one which is going like this. Number 3 now. The only one with a pentagon in the middle instead of a quadrilateral. If you look at this one, it's only one has a different one in this, that's a D. All of them have the same one. If you look at that, only this one has a different one inside. That's why it's a D. So let's move on to the next one now. I will just remove the ones we have done. Odd one outs are really easy to do. Let's move on to number 4. In this, you should always look at the pattern and see what's the difference. The only one with two shapes are not the same, just are different. We look at all the shapes are same. This one has same. Only one has different, that's a D. So that's why your answer is a D for this one. That was easy. In number 5 now, what's happening? Only one with a difference in numbers between the two groups of shapes is not 1. If you look at this, is B. Because see. So basically they are saying the only one which is different in numbers between the two groups of shapes is not 1, is B. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should have more of that. It doesn't. So your answer is B for this one. So let's move on to the next one. Number 6 now. We are still doing the odd one out section. The only one which has a line comes from a corner and not the edge. All of them have a line on the corner. If you look at this, and there's only one which doesn't have. That's which one? I've given you guys a hint. It's E. So let's move on to number 7. In number 7, the only one where there is not one less circle than the number of edges is C. So let's move on to number 8 now. The only one, if you look at the arrows, we need to look at the arrows for this one and then find your answer. So they say for number 8, the only one where the arrow line is parallel to the strip is which one? It's B. So let's move on to number 9 now. In number 9, the only one, if you look at what's happening here, the only one where the number of shape is not the same as the number of edges. You need to find out the number of edges and the shape inside are the same. Only one doesn't have that. It's D. So let's move on to number 10. What are we looking here in this one? Overlapping shapes in this one. There's only one where the circle is overlapping in an edge and not on the corner. So all of them are overlapping on the corner, not on the edge. It's only C. Let's move on to the last section now. Is the similar one. I like this section. So which of the ones are similar? Which pattern or which shape or pattern on the right belongs to with the 2 on the right? So it should be same. So there has to be 4 or 6 lines. This has 4. This has 6. So we are looking for 4 or 6 lines that have to be straight, not diagonal. The lines are divided into pieces according to the number of lines they are. So it has to be B. Dotted or this. So number 2 now. What are we looking for? Number 2, we are looking at arrows or this shape. The outer shape has a 90 degrees anti-clockwise shape, has an anti-clockwise rotation underneath, and the inner shape has 90 degrees clockwise rotation in the shape underneath. So they are rotating all of them 90 degrees. So what do you think the answer could be? It's B. Good. So let's move on to number 3 now. In number 3, what are we looking now? You're just looking at irregular quadrilateral with a triangle inside, and one of the shapes must be filled in gray. Oh, sorry. What are we looking in this one? In this one, you're looking for the 3 triangles of different sizes. See? Small, big, medium. Small, little big, and medium. 2 of the rectangles overlap on their corners, and the third overlap completely. So it's overlapping completely if you look at that. So what do you think the answer could be? I'll give you guys time now to do this one for me. So the answer is B. So let's move on to number 4 now. I should be removing that. Let me do a little big so you guys can see number 4 and number 5. So the answer for number 3, as we know, that was B. So we are looking at number 4 now. There has to be what's happening here. In number 4, there has to be a irregular quadrilateral with a triangle inside, and one shape must be filled with gray. So it needs to be filled up with gray. Look at that. So what do you think the answer is? We are looking for the gray one. So cancel the one. These two could be from these 3. And obviously we don't have a shape like this. E is also cancelled. It's from A or C. So what do you think it is? It will be C. Good. Number 5 now. What's happening here? There are 3 shapes I can see in all of them. Dark shaded, light shaded, and the top ones are not shaded at all. The shape has to be in a vertical line and always in the same order. Circle, circle, square, triangle. That's one thing I noticed. And another thing, the center shape is filled with gray or black, and the other 2 are both white. So the answer has to be B. It cannot be this one because it cannot be this one because the pattern is always like this here. So it needs to be in these 3. So let's move on to the last section now, last page of this paper. If you got stuck on anything, I would highly recommend go back and try doing it again yourself. So let's do number 6 now. Because this paper was with help. And what's happening here? In this one, there has to be one shape inside the large one, which is the same shape of the large. If you look at this one, it's a circle. So in also should have a circle. So one shape outside, inside should be same. And both of these are white. And the shape which they have, the small and inside and outside are same and has to be white. And there are 2 other shapes which are different to each other and outer shape. They are both filled in gray. So the answer is A. Number 7 now. What's happening? Look at the arrows in this one. There has to be an arrow and another shape on above the other. See? The shape has diagonal strips and the arrow is a 90 degrees in the strips. It has to be 90 degrees in the strips. So obviously the answer would be a A. So let's move on to number 9 now. So number 9, what's happening? There has to be a square. We are looking at the square in this one. They are overlapping. Obviously they are in each corner, but they are not overlapping the corner up. There is also a line Diagnose through the shape, but not dividing the shape in equal halves. It's not dividing the shape in equal halves. So obviously the answer would be a D. And this is the last one for today. I'll give a minute to you guys to try doing this one yourself and let's see if you know the answer for this one. I'll put the answer for this one in a minute for you guys. Okay, let's do it together. What's happening in the last one? There has to be a curved arrow pointing clockwise. If you look at that, inside the shape to diagonal rectangle from bottom left to top right with an outwards pointing isosceles triangle inside. If you look at that, so the answer would be a D. I hope all of you got this paper. It was a not so hard paper, little easy and little hard as usual. But again, we did this paper with help. So I would highly recommend you guys to go back and see the paper again and try doing it yourself. And if you have not liked the video now, just please go and do it because I wanted to do this video for nonverbal to explain you about each and every topic, how to do it, and I've done it. And I'll see you guys back on Monday with another new challenge, another new video, education video for you guys. Thanks for watching.